Yes.
The next thing we'd love to talk about, we're having fun here. I hope you are too. I hope you're enjoying this.
I hope this makes sense.
Is awareness. I think awareness is really important. Make sure we know what's happening around us.
I think that's something that just even goes beyond a music director. It's really, you know, you're relying on everyone on the stage to actually just be aware. You know, it's not just, okay, I'm going to switch off and wait for my music director to tell me what to do. You know, it's everyone owning that, you know, and it's wonderful.
And there's also kind of practical things to be aware of sometimes a drummer's pack fails. So even sometimes I know you and I have been in settings where all of a sudden a drummer that is just straight on, all of a sudden starts to go a bit wonky. And you look over and you see that their pack has fallen, or you see that they're in some form of distress. And I think awareness of that stuff actually really helps you to be able to navigate what may come.
I think you talked about preparation before, and I think it's so important to be prepared and to know your craft, know your instrument really well. So if you've got the set list and you've worked it through and you've thought about, like you said at the start, you thought about what you're going to bring, then you can actually spend less time shoegazing, if you like, or always looking down. You're looking at what you're doing and thinking, oh, how do I play this next chord, or what's the next thing? You know, you've prepared. You've got that thought through, and you've got your sounds ready. You know the how are you going to play the parts, everything like that. You don't need to be looking at that. You can spend more time looking up, looking at what the worship leader's doing, looking around it, making sure everyone on the platform is good, their ears are good, if the pack's failed, you're not like distracted with, oh man, but I really need to be able to figure out how to play this part. And you're aware of the senior pastor wanting to come up, or the MC. Preparation is really important, hey?
Yeah. And in that, it kind of leads into the next thing we want to talk about, which is navigating change. I know you probably have a lot of thoughts on this, but it's very often, it's very rare that things go according to plan, really, isn't it?
Well, we would like to think that it does go to plan sometimes. But.
Do you want to talk to us about some of the trickiness and really how you navigate change as an MD?
So with change, I think it all comes back to preparation. Being prepared, having a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C even is really important. Okay, so I think we plan well to have a structure so we can throw that structure out the window, if need be.
Well put.
If need be. Look, I mean, geez, there was one time where I was thinking, it was the start of it always happens at a conference for me. I don't know why. Like, it was a colour conference. We're at the ICC. It was the last night of, it was the third night. Jad was leading. We were going into, I think that song, Rule by Hillsong United song. Now that's a fairly track-heavy song. And I remember the pre-roll finished, we crashed out, and I was like, roll track. And I could see the guy rolling, nothing. We're like, great. I'm like, roll track. And he's like, his hands are in the air, nothing. I'm like, roll it. And Jad's like stalling, he's holding that chord, whatever. And he's like, hey everyone, hope you're doing well. We're gonna get ready to worship, and and still nothing. And then he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at the tracks guy, and he's like, we seem to have some technical difficulties, and we tried to laugh about it, but what are you going to do at that moment? You need to come up with the goods. You can't just like, hold up guys, we just take a moment, talk amongst yourselves while we sort out our stuff here, That's actually not an option. So as a music director, if you're prepared, not just relying on the track to count you in and all that sort of stuff, what I did is I looked around, I'm like, okay, tempo, 126. I had it in front of me, the tempo, 126. So I called it to the drummer, tempo, 126. And I counted it, and I looked around, I'm like, do you have the sounds? Do you have the sounds to the keys, guys? And they're like, yep. And I just counted in, 1, 2, 3, 4. And everyone knew their stuff. They weren't relying on the track intro or the track counting. They knew their parts, they had their sounds ready to go, regardless of whether the tracks worked or not. Thumbs up to everyone on the platform that day. But it's important to have a plan A, plan B, plan C. If the tracks fail, what am I going to do? Do I know not just my guitar parts, but do I know maybe the keys has a keys line? Can I cover the keys player if they're having to cover something else? How do I communicate to the drummer the tempo and the part? All those sort of things. It's important to be prepared.
It's so good, Nigel. I love that. And also, I think knowing what the priorities are, knowing what the big building blocks are.
Right.
So, for instance, obviously, if a drummer stops playing, that's a little bit more of a priority than if your second keys rig dies. Does that make sense? So I think as a music director, if you're kind of looking at the picture holistically, if a couple of things go down, you can still keep moving. But if something like the drummer goes down, you kind of have, I don't know, there's different priority with different things. And so I think my mind is constantly assessing. And another thing with navigating change, I think you have to be thinking ahead. What's the next song that's coming up? Often like time management during a set will kind of sometimes really get to you if you're not watching and seeing that you're going to run out of time. Here at Hillsong, we do kind of 20-minute sets, and we're fairly strict on that. And so then if the worship leader really takes a moment, and then we're counting in to song 4 at 17 minutes. Then as a music director, we're going to have to navigate some change there and shorten that song. And conversely, we've also had the flip side where we have 2 different venues, and sometimes Pastor Brian will be speaking at one venue and he's delayed coming over to the next venue. So I've been on with JD, and we're meant to be finishing, and probably 30 seconds out from finishing, a little voice comes in my ears from our service producer that says, "Pastor Brian's not in the room yet, please keep going." And so then on the fly, you have to extend your set and do things like that. And I think if you plan for those, and as a music director, you have enough rapport with your worship leader to know how to navigate those moments, they can come across seamless to the congregation.
Totally.
Even though we get off stage afterwards and go, "Oh, can you believe that?"
Seriously, it's like a duck on the water and your legs going crazy. I liken it to, I think that's brilliant, anticipating what's coming up next. And I liken it to like driving down the road and approaching like a traffic intersection, like traffic lights, everything like that. As a driver, you don't get to the intersection, then look up and see, is the light green or is the light red? You're looking at it from a mile away. It's green, great, I can go. But it could go orange or it could go red. And if it does, I'm ready to slow down. I'm ready to not hit the accelerator.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the same with music directing and anticipating moments. You're at a chorus, and there's potentially a bridge or an instrumental, or we could bring it down, or if the time permits, we could double the chorus, or if the time doesn't permit, we might need to end the song. And there's all these options here, and as a music director, you have to be thinking of your plan A, plan B, plan C, and you're not waiting to get to that, oh my gosh, okay, the last beat of that the fourth bar, what are we going to do, So anticipating the moment, as you said, is really important, yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to touch on it here is what we actually say into the mic. So, and because it is very purposed, right? We're not just stringing out a paragraph to tell the worship leader as they're trying to sing. It's actually really intentional when we speak and what we say. Do you want to speak to that?
I think clear, concise, short, to the point things are really important to, the way you communicate. So it's not like when we're coming to the end of a song, it's not like, hey, worship leader, what do you want to do? Should we do this or should we do that? Maybe we'll bring it down, or maybe we'll go into instrumental. Just let us know when you're ready. We don't have those sort of conversations on the mic. It's like, if the worship leader hasn't made a call, then I would make a call. I'd be like, let's end it. Or I'll be like, heads up. And it gets everyone on the stage looking up. And it also communicates to the worship leader, okay, we're thinking about the moment. We're thinking about what's coming up next. Or I'll be like, if it's Jad, I'll be like, Jad, you call it. And just short things like that. And I'll also wait till a break in the phrase of their singing, whether it's a turnaround from a chorus to a verse, or just a break in the in the singing, and then just look for a point where you can communicate. You usually try not to communicate over their singing, because then it's just a whole lot of voices in people's heads.